It was a quiet, foggy Sunday morning at Augusta National. The year was 2020, a year that felt like it was stuck in a strange, timeless bubble. The Masters, usually the herald of spring, was being played in the dead of November. And in the final round, two players were paired together, walking the hallowed grounds with absolutely nothing to play for. One was a 24-year-old Texan, still searching for his first major win, a young man named Scottie Scheffler, who was just happy to be there. The other was the man who had defined the sport for a generation. The man with 5 green jackets. The man who had already conquered the world and was now limping towards the end of a career plagued by injury. He was 11 shots behind the leader, totally out of contention. That man was Tiger Woods. And on the very first hole, Scottie Scheffler saw something that would change the entire course of his career and ignite one of the most dominant runs in golf history. Now, Scottie Scheffler is the undisputed king of golf. He is the world #1, and his statistics are starting to look less like a modern marvel and more like a statistical doppelganger of Tiger Woods in his prime. We are talking about back-to-back seasons with 5 or more wins, a feat not seen since Tiger. We are talking about a winning percentage that surpasses even the great Tiger Woods. In a sport obsessed with history and legacies, a relentless debate is taking over the golfing world. Are we witnessing the heir to the throne, or has Scottie Scheffler actually become better than the man he idolized? The numbers are astonishing, the rivalry is generational, and the story is one of quiet dominance that is shaking the very foundations of the PGA Tour. The modern golf fan has grown accustomed to a certain level of brilliance from Scottie Scheffler. It's a quiet, unassuming brilliance, punctuated by a stoic focus and a vicious, flawless iron game that seems to dismantle the toughest courses on the planet. In 2024, he won 7 times on the PGA Tour, a haul that included a second Masters title, followed by an Olympic gold medal. He just kept winning. He won 6 more times in 2025, capturing the PGA Championship and the Open Championship. The man has spent 169 weeks at world #1 and, by early 2026, had racked up an astonishing 20 PGA Tour victories. To put that into perspective, he is the 3rd fastest player in history to reach 20 wins, trailing only Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. He reached the mark in just 151 starts. And by doing so before the age of 30, he joined an exclusive club that only includes Woods and Nicklaus. When he wins, he doesn't just win, he dominates. 9 of his 20 victories have come by 4 shots or more, a staggering rate of 45%. He is the first player since Woods to have 5+ wins in back-to-back years. This is where the story gets interesting. When you win that much, the comparisons are inevitable. But there is a quiet tension in the narrative of Scottie Scheffler. He is achieving things not seen since the heyday of the greatest player to ever live. Yet, he is profoundly uncomfortable with the conversation. It's very silly to be compared to Tiger Woods, Scheffler has said, time and time again. He is adamant about this, almost as if he is trying to swat away the notion. I think Tiger is a guy that stands alone in the game of golf, and I think he always will. On the surface, this is the ultimate sign of respect. It seems perfectly natural for any player to defer to the legend. But if you dig deeper, you realize that Scheffler is downplaying the most remarkable aspect of his own journey. He is, statistically, in the conversation. In the last 4 seasons, his winning percentage in official events is 24.1%, which is actually higher than Tiger Woods' career winning percentage of 22.8%. He has a current world golf ranking points average that makes the rest of the field look like they are playing a different sport, a gap that rivals the margins Tiger commanded at his peak. So, why the dismissiveness? Why does the most dominant player on the planet insist he's not worthy of being in the same sentence as the legend? Perhaps it's because Scottie Scheffler knows a secret that no stat can capture. He knows what it takes to be that good. He knows the price of admission. And he knows he was taught that lesson by the very man he is being compared to. It happened on that cold Sunday at the Masters in 2020. A day when he was paired with Tiger Woods. A day he had no chance of winning. And a day he learned what true greatness actually looks like. We have entered an era of golf where history is being written in real time, but the author is reluctant to claim his place in the story. The stage is set for a generational shift in power, a passing of the torch that the torchbearer himself doesn't believe he is worthy of carrying. And at the heart of it all is a question that is going to define the sport for the next decade. How did a quiet kid from Dallas, who just wanted to learn from his hero, end up becoming the most dominant force since Tiger? And is he, in fact, better? To understand the magnitude of what Scottie Scheffler witnessed that Sunday at the 2020 Masters, you have to step back and appreciate the context. The golf world was still in a strange, suspended state. The COVID-19 pandemic had turned the sporting calendar upside down, and the Masters, usually the harbinger of spring, was being played in the quiet, chilly air of November with no roaring crowds lining the fairways. For a 24-year-old Scottie Scheffler, making his Masters debut, it was an otherworldly experience. He was in his second full year on the PGA Tour, a talented young player who had shown flashes of brilliance but had yet to break through for his first win. Heading into that final round, Scheffler found himself tied for 19th place, a respectable finish for a rookie, but a full 11 shots behind the eventual winner, Dustin Johnson. He had nothing to lose. It was a day to learn, to soak in the atmosphere of Augusta National. He was paired with his idol, the defending champion, Tiger Woods. For Scheffler, it was supposed to be a moment of reverence, a chance to observe greatness from the best seat in the house. But what he was about to see would shatter his perception of what it truly meant to compete. Scheffler has always been honest about his early struggles. He admits that in his first few years on tour, he sometimes struggled with consistency, not in his swing, but in his head. He felt he was guilty of easing his way into tournaments, not giving himself enough chances to win. He would find himself on the periphery, never quite in the final groups on Sunday. He understood the mathematical truth of golf. A shot on Thursday counts just as much as one on the final 9 holes on Sunday. But knowing it and internalizing it are two very different things. He had the talent, the work ethic, and the iron game. But he was missing the killer instinct. That day in Augusta, paired with a legend who had already cemented his legacy, was about to provide the missing piece of the puzzle. The moment that truly changed everything didn't happen on the first tee. It happened on the 12th hole. The par 3 12th is the epicenter of Amen Corner, a terrifyingly beautiful test where the swirling winds and a tiny, treacherous green can destroy any scorecard. Tiger Woods, the man who had seemingly conquered Augusta so many times, came undone. He hit 3 balls into Rays Creek, carding a septuple bogey 10, the highest score of his professional career on a single hole. It was a shocking, almost surreal sight. For Scheffler, watching from the same group alongside Shane Lowry, it was a moment of disbelief. He recalled standing there, watching Woods struggle from the bunker, thinking the legend could easily hit another into the water. It was a defining moment of vulnerability for a man who had always seemed superhuman. But it was what happened next that etched itself into Scheffler's memory. As the book Drive, the lasting legacy of Tiger Woods, later detailed, Woods was furious. But instead of letting the anger consume him, he channeled it. He was 9 over par for the round, threatening to shoot his worst score ever at Augusta. He could have just coasted in, shaken hands, and gone home. It didn't matter. No one would have blamed him. But that's not how Tiger Woods operated. He didn't just finish the round. He played his final 6 holes in 5 under par. He birdied the 13th, then closed with 4 consecutive birdies on the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. He went from looking like he might shoot 80 to posting a 76, a score that, while disappointing by his standards, was a testament to an unbreakable will. He refused to quit. He refused to treat a single shot as anything less than a potential victory. Scheffler was watching, and he was absolutely in shock. He saw a man who had already won everything there was to win, a man who was completely out of the tournament, playing the most difficult finishing stretch in golf as if a green jacket depended on it. It was like, what's this guy still playing for? Scheffler later recalled, he's won the Masters 4 or 5 times. Best finish he's going to have is like 20th place at this point. The answer was simple, and it was a philosophy that would soon define Scheffler's own career. Tiger wasn't just playing against the other players. He was playing against the course, against the game, and against the very concept of mediocrity. Scheffler realized that the secret to greatness wasn't just hitting perfect shots when you are in contention. It was caring about every single shot, regardless of the situation. It was refusing to take a single stroke off, even when it didn't matter on the leaderboard. That was something that I just thought about for a long time, Scheffler said. I felt like a change I needed to make was bringing that same intensity to each round and each shot. In that one round, He saw what it truly meant to be a champion, and he resolved to emulate it. The quiet kid from Dallas had just received a masterclass in mental fortitude from the master himself. The lesson Scottie Scheffler learned from Tiger Woods that Sunday at the 2020 Masters was not about swing mechanics or course strategy. It was about an internal standard that refused to accept mediocrity, even when victory was mathematically impossible. That lesson took root deep inside Scheffler, but it would take nearly 2 years of struggle and frustration before it began to bear fruit. For much of 2021, Scheffler remained that talented young player who could never quite close the deal. He had the game. He had the work ethic. But he was still learning how to win. Then, in February of 2022, everything changed. He won the WM Phoenix Open in a playoff, finally breaking through for his first PGA Tour victory. The floodgates opened. He won the Arnold Palmer Invitational a month later. Then he won the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play, 4 wins and 6 starts. And suddenly the kid from Dallas was the #1 player in the world. And then came the Masters. Scottie Scheffler arrived at Augusta National in 2022 as the favorite, carrying the weight of expectation that had crushed so many before him. He opened with rounds of 69 and 67, taking a 5-shot lead into the weekend. On Sunday, he started the final round with a 3-shot lead, but the pressure of Augusta's back nine has broken stronger men than Scottie Scheffler. His playing partner, Cameron Smith, made an early charge, cutting the lead to 1. Rory McIlroy was making a historic run ahead of them, firing a stunning 64 that would be one of the greatest final rounds in Masters history. This was the moment where the old Scottie Scheffler might have folded, where the weight of the moment, the roars echoing through Amen Corner, the knowledge that a major championship was within his grasp, might have caused him to tighten up and play not to lose. Instead, he channeled that lesson he had learned from Tiger 2 years earlier. He didn't just hold on. He attacked out on the 3rd hole. After both he and Smith hit poor shots, Scheffler holed an incredible bump and run shot from off the green, a moment of pure magic that swung the momentum back in his favor. He made critical par saves on the 11th and 12th holes, rolling in medium-range putts that would have broken a lesser player. Then he birdied the 14th and 15th, extending his lead to 5 shots. Even a 4-putt on the final green could not deny him. He won by 3 shots, claiming his first green jacket and his first major championship. After the round, Scheffler stood in Butler cabin, the green jacket draped over his shoulders, and he wept. "I was so overwhelmed and didn't know I was ready for this," he said. He spoke about crying like a baby that morning, about tearing up when he received his first Masters invitation in the mail. This was a young man who had dreamed of this moment his entire life, who had worked relentlessly to achieve it, and who had finally realized that the lesson he learned from Tiger was not just about golf. It was about a standard of excellence that could carry him to places he had only ever imagined. He had taken the seed of that lesson and grown it into something extraordinary. But the story was far from over. The comparisons to Tiger were just beginning, and they would only grow louder with each passing victory. The 2024 Masters was supposed to be the coronation. Scottie Scheffler arrived at Augusta National as the defending champion, the world #1, and the heavy favorite. He had won the Players' Championship just a few weeks earlier, becoming only the 2nd golfer in history to win both the Players and the Masters in the same year. The script seemed written. But golf has a cruel way of rewriting narratives, and Scheffler found himself tested in ways that went far beyond the game itself. On the Sunday morning before the final round, Scheffler sat in his rental house with his childhood friends, and he told them something that revealed the immense weight he was carrying. "I wish I didn't want to win as badly as I did," he admitted. "I love winning. I hate losing. I really do." He was overwhelmed by the pressure, the expectations, the weight of history bearing down on his shoulders. 2 years earlier, his wife Meredith had calmed him before his first Masters victory. But this time she was back home in Dallas, nearing the birth of their first child. He was alone with his anxiety and his ambition, and the battle was entirely internal. Then his friends gave him a perspective that transcended golf. They reminded him that his identity was secure, that victory or defeat on a golf course could not define who he was. It was the same kind of unshakable internal foundation that had allowed Tiger Woods to play his final 6 holes at Augusta in 2020 as if the tournament depended on it. For Scheffler, it was a spiritual reset that allowed him to step onto the course and do what he does best, dominate. The final round was a masterclass in controlled aggression. Scheffler entered the day with a one-shot lead over Collin Morikawa, Max Homa, and Ludwig Aberg. He bogeyed the fourth and seventh holes, and suddenly he was in a four-way tie. The pressure was mounting. But this is where the lesson from Tiger Woods in 2020 came roaring back to life. Scheffler didn't retreat. He attacked. On the eighth hole, he holed a 10-foot birdie putt. On the ninth, he nearly holed his approach shot from 90 yards out, tapping in for another birdie. On the 10th, he drained a 9-footer to make it 3 in a row. By the time he reached Amen Corner, he had turned a tight race into a rout. He birdied the 11th and 12th, two of the most treacherous holes on the course, and the chasing pack simply could not keep up. Morikawa made double bogeys on 9 and 11. Aberg found the water on 11. One by one, they crumbled under the relentless pressure that Scheffler applied. He shot a final round 68, winning by 4 shots over Aberg, who was making his Masters debut. It was his second green jacket in 3 years, and it placed him in an elite category. He became just the 5th player to win 2 Masters titles before turning 28, joining Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Seve Ballesteros, and Horton Smith. He also became the first player since Jack Nicklaus to win the Masters by 4 or more shots in 2 different years. The victory was not just a win. It was a statement. Scottie Scheffler was no longer just a great player. He was entering the conversation as one of the most dominant forces the game had ever seen. But the most telling moment came after the round. Rory McIlroy, who had seen greatness up close for his entire career, offered a simple explanation for Scheffler's success. "Not a lot of clutter," McIlroy said. "The game feels pretty easy when you're in stretches like this." That lack of clutter, that ability to shut out the noise and focus only on the next shot, was the exact quality Scheffler had witnessed in Tiger Woods on that cold November Sunday in 2020. He had learned from the master, and now he was applying that lesson to carve out his own legacy. The comparisons were no longer just statistical curiosities. They were becoming impossible to ignore. The statistical comparisons between Scottie Scheffler and Tiger Woods had become impossible to ignore. By the start of 2026, Scheffler had won 20 PGA Tour events in just 151 starts, making him the 3rd fastest player in history to reach that milestone. Only Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus had gotten there quicker. He had also joined those same 2 legends as the only players to accumulate 20 wins and 4 major championships before turning 30. The numbers were staggering, and they demanded attention. When Scheffler captured his 4th straight PGA Tour Player of the Year award in December 2025, he joined Tiger Woods as the only players ever to win the honor in at least 4 consecutive seasons. It was yet another box checked, another milestone that placed him alongside the man he had idolized. The narrative seemed almost pre-written. Scheffler had taken the lesson he learned from Woods in 2020 and transformed it into something unprecedented in the modern game. His winning percentage over the previous 4 seasons stood at 24.1%, which actually surpassed Woods' career winning percentage of 22.8%.